Yeah, we spent Monday and Tuesday hot fixing like other bugs that have been reported. Thanks very much to the community for putting them all into the tech support, and the mods worked hard to collate them all into a nice kind of report sheet. So I think now we're in a pretty good shape. Like it's mostly the user experience improvements that we can add now to the UI. An example is the future distribution chart where we have some vaults overlapping each other, so you can't see what they'll be getting. But yeah, overall, it was a successful launch, I think, and really proud of the team for the achievement, especially given the last minute hurdles which popped up and we had to hustle to get it all patched up. Yeah, so it's really great to have that weight off of V3 off of our shoulders finally, and we can now start talking about other things. So yeah, we hope it's a new chapter for us now, and we can put the past behind us. Era 3, so that starts on Sunday. We did say we'd delay Era 3 until a week after launch. So yeah, the official start of that will be this Sunday. We'll be releasing the non-tech items that we've been talking about. Have been backed up a little bit since launch. So that's like the Discord channels, a reorg and tidy up of them. The Git book to update with new V3 and the Era 3 information. There's a DAO transition movement which is starting, which will be a nice a bunch of fresh ideas and community mandate as well. A future roadmap laid out. We've got a graphic being made up for that and a forum post again about it. Financial report will come out next week. We're just updating it with the expenditure from the recent launch last week. And yAxis World, I think, I'm not even sure if that's the name we're going with, Pappy, but it's basically like a metaverse to host the DAO stuff, and I think it should be really cool. Other bits of news, we are still bugging DeFi Pulse and Llama and CoinGecko about updating all the different data feeds. We've submitted all the forms again and all the info required. We're just, of course, reliant on them to actually do that, to actually publish that to their sites. We know it's super important and we're doing everything we can. Maybe an idea is just to do another round of button hunts to try and get more attention onto us, essentially, so they give us more of a priority. And then the Borrow Lend feature, that finished the audit last week. And Frank, our developer on that, has been labeling and fixing the issues that were found on it. So yeah, once we're happy with the state of code, we can then deploy that to Kovan, the testnet again, and our front-end devs can start building out the UI page ready for release. Yeah, and next item is that as part of a coming marketing push, we're hiring. So we're looking for a couple of people, like external facing people that can drive more awareness throughout the communities, really lie down doing the grassroots kind of community stuff. So that might be hijacking Twitter threads, chatting with users on Discord, posting through the Reddits, helping out with maybe graphics or messaging that works, basically generating buzz, right? So we're looking for people that are extroverted, that don't mind talking to people, and drumming up attention, I guess. It's going to be a paid position just to join the Champions program, essentially, and ideally from within the community because you already know about yAxis. And I think if you're interested, then you're very welcome to reach out to Mr. or Wally after this, and we'll, yeah, love to talk. Yeah, I also want to say that the social marketing, though, and like these organic referrals that you can get, is the most effective way currently in crypto. The more times that people can see the name yAxis and the different yields that are on offer, the more likely they are to then be triggered to start researching us, right? It's very easy just to pass over one post you see, or to, for example, if I post something from my account, I don't have like a massive tens of thousands of followers, so it's not that visible. So if we can actually go into different Twitter threads, for example, and leverage other people's networks, then that's a really good way to do things too. Mister, I think you wanted to talk a little bit about the marketing plans. You want to just take 30 seconds or whatever?
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. And just as Bobby mentioned, right, we're really focused on community activations right now, right? But to kind of back it up a little bit, just from a high level, the marketing roadmap, quote unquote, is really focused right now on our launch phase, right? And in our launch phase, we do want to be really judicious and careful with our budget spend. One, to ensure that we're ready for that mass awareness and the flood of users. But two, also to ensure that we do have enough dry powder to activate for upcoming big milestones. As Bobby mentioned, the borrow lend feature is around the corner. So to that point, we are in launch phase right now, and we're prepping to transition into a larger activation phase But while we're in launch phase, we're very much focused on the community activations, the partner activations. As Bobby spoke to, the community ambassador roles, the champions roles. That's really going to help us. So we do urge everybody. Right now, we have the Twitter Raids channel with contests going live, already live rather. So please engage there. We do need your help. But really, to speak to what's coming next, those are the bigger spend activations, right? And that's where we really go out of the gate. We have, broad kind of audience targeting activations, everything from banners to newsletters and more targeted pushes as well. Really specific, niche specific newsletters, for example, folks that'll resonate with our, for example, gamification or compounding, auto compounding messages, right? So that's all coming, but that doesn't mean we're quiet right now. As I mentioned, we're in community activation, partner activation mode, but we will still have some press releases, some smaller banners, and newsletter activations in the near to immediate term. So all that to say, we're on track right now. We are on plan. Everything metered by wanting to be judicious with our capital spend. But yeah, it's all in progress, to let everybody know. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mister. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit about tokenomics, which are interesting post-launch, I guess. So yeah, the tokenomics and game theory of V3 are more nuanced for sure, and they involve people competing against each other, but also working together strangely at the same time, whether on a personal or on a vault set level. So yeah, whether you're boosting or you're voting for your vault, it's a little bit like crabs trying to climb out of a bucket and continually keeping your voting power high and boosts high by pushing others back down, and so that you're getting the most of the rewards that you can possibly get. The results of the first vote this week, I think they were pretty much expected. Like everyone was expecting the yAxis holders to come out in strength and vote for a big skew in emissions towards themselves. So it's not really a surprise. The votes are still getting their base yield that they will be getting anyway on Convex, for example. And they're also getting an auto compounding feature there. So it's still a solid product for them, even if they're not getting a lot of yAxis rewards on top. And of course, the opportunity is still there for them to come along. It just takes one whale to come in and put in a bunch of capital and then vote, essentially lock up some yAxis, and things will change. But that opportunity isn't so visible to people, to outsiders, unless you already know about yAxis, right? So yeah, in some respects, it's difficult as yAxis holders have had such a head start, and they're gaining more and more yAxis every day, right? So it's harder for others to simply catch up. The tug of war system that we've got between the 5 different vaults, it's not really designed to pit your established governance token against your wanted vault users, which you're trying to attract in. So although people are probably quite happy in the short term to see a big boost to their yAxis rewards, I hope that people recognize in the long term that's probably not the best balance to have. For example, we had $10 million in the USD vault, and that dropped straight back to 6 million after the vault. So that costs us some revenue as well. So we need to think about ourselves as a business and how we're generating revenue versus the costs of the emissions that we're giving out. People are also curious about the fees for locking up yAxis, and the fees going to people that have locked up their yAxis, and it's worth whether or not it's worth locking in yAxis if you're a small holder, especially with gas costs being so high. So at Curve, the performance fees go into like a weekly Merkle drop, and I suggest we do that maybe twice a month. So that was in the original UI design, but it didn't quite make the release. Sorry, there's like a huge hurricane passing through, if you can hear that in the background. And storms, wow, I'm about to get hit by lightning. But yeah, it didn't make it to release because the Merkle drop contract wasn't in place at the time, so that's something which we'll be working on next. It's also clear that all the different transactions that are required to create, they do create a really high barrier for people that are smaller users maybe on Ethereum. There's a bunch of transactions needed, whether it's the approvals or the locking or extending or staking, withdrawing, etc., which makes it really tough for people to actively participate as the system is intended to. When the gauges were first launched by Curve, 18 months ago, they were super cheap transactions, and that's how it's meant to work. So yeah, we do seriously need to look at other chains and see how we can make things better for small users so they can actually take part. So things aren't perfectly aligned right now as they should be, and I do have one idea to solve that, which I think is the best of both worlds. And just my idea essentially is to transition from a yAxis vault and slowly shift those same amount of emissions over to the VE yAxis holders, and take that into a bi-weekly Merkle drop alongside the performance fees. So I'll write up some more posts about that with more details, but it essentially means that we would have an isolated set of emissions going to locked up yAxis holders, and then the other Vault users who are just kind of getting started with building their yAxis stacks can kind of be separate, and kind of compete freely without that weight of an established group of the yAxis holders competing against them. Yeah, so we'll also be adding vaults. So we want to try and add a few more on in the future, choosing maybe some really high APY or high TVL vaults over from Convex, as that's an easy way to get our TVL up and make some effective buybacks started again. For things like the ETH gas price and other deployments, we are looking at roll-ups, for example. We've got a call next week about that. But they are still quite early days, and if you're going to be especially a meta yield aggregator, you need deep liquidity to effectively farm. So in the meantime, the plan is to deploy to other chains like Arbitrum or Avalanche as soon as possible, basically. And that's just a matter of tweaking the contracts so they can function on those chains and then redeploying again, which should hopefully be a lot cheaper than on Ethereum. So usually when platforms go cross-chain, they take a portion of their supply and then they bridge it across to the other chain. So when we launched yAxis, when we did that token swap, we only minted a year's worth of supply, right? So if we take from that initial supply, which is just capped out at 11 million, then that would reduce the runway that we have for our mainnet ETH product. So I'm suggesting, again, it's just a suggestion, that we deploy on other chains with an alternate yAxis governance token, which binds all the different chains that we deploy on together. And then we start those new chains fresh, like a day one project. Or as if someone had forked us, we'd essentially do that ourselves. Except that then we'd give, say, 10 or 20% of the new circulating supply dropped back each week to those VE yAxis holders in that Merkle drop, in that same Merkle drop, along with the performance fees and the yAxis emissions as well. Just in the way that Ellipsis did, if you're familiar with Curve, where they were giving every week a portion of their new supply back to VE Curve holders. So that's something which has been done before very successfully, actually, and was really good for Curve's token price. So yeah, and again, I do want to stress that's just an idea to be discussed. So yeah, with multiple deployments, hopefully that's a lot of value coming back to VE yAxis from possibly a different token, and it also gives us these new deployments a fair chance of success with like a very long runway. We could start it with, say, 4 years of runway each. So that continually provides value back to VE yAxis long past when our own emissions stop. Yeah, I think that's most of what I wanted to cover. So I think Big Pappy has some stuff as well to share about the community stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. So I'm going to cover some community things, and then I think we will get into the community questions for the herd. So first, let me congratulate our first set of Twitter retweeting winners from the first contest. So in first place, we have SRA. Second place is Waldorf, and third place is W Time. So a reminder that first place not only gets that 60 yAxis, but also a coin or hoodie. So welcome to a very elite club, because we still get those questions about opening a merch store. And I'm still trying to convince Mr. Mister just to sell me a bunch of hoodies, and I'm going to resell them to you guys at 100% markup. Looking at the NFT awardees. So Zemus, thank you for being the guinea pig. We did work out the kinks. He got his. So the rest of you will be receiving yours within the next day, if you got your wallet addressed to me. Looking at the next contest, so the second Twitter contest, I'm extending that deadline. I want to accommodate more folks. So here's the deal, guys. There's a lot of retweets, but there was only 2 or 3 people that posted back into Discord. So if you can do me a favor, go and jump on your Twitter, take a screenshot, send me a link, do something so that I know you did retweet it, because I got to see it in Discord. It's just a lot easier than me going through 40, 80, links on Twitter trying to look at stuff. And then also a note on that, we are going to be changing the model for the Twitter raids along with what Mr. Mister was talking about. There's going to be some other changes coming to potentially keep that as an ongoing event, something that you can participate in with any new tweet. So some details will be coming out on that. Now, regarding the metaverse that Bobby was talking about, I do want to note that the second Twitter raid, the prize for first place there is going to be someone that will be invited. You can join me in game, or I can live stream and you can come in with me. But you're going to be able to select your house, customize it. You're going to get a sign. You're going to get the best real estate in that NFT world. Again, a reminder that is an on-chain NFT on the Ethereum chain that you will have your home in. And then, of course, once we get to the point where we test the new features, when they introduce the smart contract integration into that NFT, which is coming soon. For that project, I should say, not for yAxis yet, right? We got to look into that. But once that does come out, then you will also be first in line to test those features. So I think that's pretty cool. And then a final note on the community stuff. You're probably seeing me actively trying to pivot discussions about future roadmap, new ideas, that kind of stuff into one of two places, which is the ideas channel in Discord, but more importantly to the forums, because we're at a stage where, as Bobby referenced, we're trying to mature the DAO, to get more engagement from the DAO, and to bring your input, your ideas in there so we can discuss it collaboratively, right? This isn't Big Poppy's project. This isn't Bobby's project. This is all of our projects. This is the place that forum is the place where we will officially, formally engage the entire community and talk about new things that we want to do. So more to follow on that, but you're going to see me being a nuisance and kind of prod you guys to take your new ideas to that channel and to the forum. So with that, Bobby, I think if you're ready, we could get into the community questions.
Sure, yeah, shoot.
All right. So first one was just, I think you really covered it already, but talking about the post-launch bugs. I know Guido was extremely busy for a few days. Where do we stand with those right now?
I think there's most of them have been fixed pretty much. There's still a couple around there, some little ones, but it's mostly user experience improvements we can work on next. So one example of a bug is the info bubble that is locked underneath the covers, which is quite an annoying one, so people can't see the breakdown of the different APRs without actually first approving the vault. So that's something simple we can fix. Or the interest earned and the rewards earned section, they need to be reworked and turned back onto the main page so people can see their kind of historic performance. We want to stand up the rewards UI for the governance section I was talking about. That was in the original designs. It just didn't make it through because the function of the Merkle drop wasn't there yet, but we're doing that right now. We also want to double check the calculator for the boost is correct, because we still occasionally get some people saying that it's not working for them. So I would be keen to understand from lots of people whether or not that is working for them or not, or if they think there is an issue somewhere that we can look into and investigate. From there it's about collating, I think, the user experience improvements, maybe taking some feedback and suggestions. We know it's definitely not perfect, and hopefully we can implement some of those.
Yeah, and actually you bring up a good point, Bobby. So he mentioned earlier that we've been building up lists of bugs, lists of other things. So we actually have, I think, 3 or 4 lists going now. We have the post-launch bugs, which the developers have been working very hard to resolve. And when I look at the list, most of it is completed. We have the list of good ideas. I'll call it the good idea fairies. Which is the screenshot I posted into the Yahoo chat. So if you guys see that, that's where we're starting to roll those up. We're going to start to ferry those over into the discourse forums and build some topics around those. And then we'll call it the optimizations, right? Which is how do we improve the UI UX, the user experience for you guys. And we have a few things mostly sourced from you again. So again, thank you for all that feedback that we're rolling up that people are that the developers are going to take a look at and see what we can realistically do. So next question was to talk about the plans for the new vaults. You talked about that a little bit already. The next question was the updating the data for DeFi Pulse, CoinGecko, those types of stuff. That's also in progress. We've done our part. We need those guys to do their part, but there may be something we can do. Like Bobby said, a community sourced, go poke and prod and bug those guys to help finish that. The new lending feature, Bobby, you did mention that. And I'm going to put you on the spot on this one, but the one part of the lending feature that we didn't settle was the name of the stable coin. Is that still up for grabs?
I guess it's up for grabs. I have, at least personally, kind of figured out what it probably should be, which was one of the suggestions as well. I'm just hesitant to talk about it in case someone goes and takes the name, pinches the name, to kind of troll us. That's all. But yeah, it's something that maybe we should look into locking down to make sure that no one else can take it.
All right. Yeah, it's a good point. I already know what my favorite one was, but I also know it's not going to win. Looking at the marketing, so Mr. did elaborate on that. So that was another question I think was already answered. Transparency, the financial reporting, that's coming next week. So we got that one answered. And then I see a question from Mr. Don Joe. He was talking about he was asking if you could elaborate on the pulse chain conversation for yAxis.
The pulse chain conversation, what do you mean by that?
That's a good point. I think we might have to table that one just because I think we'd have to go and dig up the rest of the conversation, sir. But we will get back to you on Discord with that. And with that, that's the list that I have here, Bobby. So I'll pass it back to you.
Okay. Is there anything that the rest of the guys wanted to touch on briefly before we sign off? I'll take that as a no then. Yeah, so thanks again for joining. I think the last thing to say is that, like we talked about before, we launched V3, is that we were looking to change the format of the herds to more of a written update. We think that may be a better thing to clearly put across information rather than say to people, go and check out, week 23 and download the podcast and listen to half an hour speech for that one sentence which you're looking for. It's probably a lot easier just to kind of highlight some text for people, and to kind of maintain like an FAQ kind of thing. So we're still going to do the occasional podcast around different milestones and events and launches as is needed, but we're probably going to move to a written format. And that's probably for the best for everyone. Like, we wanted to keep going with these herds leading up to launch, just to try and keep that information and transparency going and engagement with people, to make sure that people, because of course people are getting anxious about the launch, so we wanted to try and stem that a little bit. So we kind of stuck with it for longer than we were going to. But yeah, just FYI, we'll be probably changing the format going forward. It's been really good fun doing these, and of course it's not, like I said, it's not the last one. We're just going to change to written updates. But yeah, thanks so much for joining today, and we appreciate all the support that you've shown for the V3 launch, and we're going to do you proud as we work hard to roll out the rest of these features and upgrades. So yeah, thanks again, guys. We'll catch you in the Discord, I guess, and have a good weekend.